Welcome everyone to Hit the Books. I'm Thomas Casale with Joey Knish. Hit the Books on the Hammer Betting Network, powered by Circa Sports. Knish. Be like the pros with the world's largest sports book right at your fingertips. Experience big at bets with the highest betting limits, better money line splits with the lowest hold percentage. Sports betting on the go has never been easier, Knish. Download it now. Fund your bet like a pro anywhere's in Nevada, or just download it. You can check the lines. Circa Sportsbook, Knish. That's the place to be if you're in Nevada. I hope they're going to be coming out to New York soon because I need them.
Hey, you know what? It's the best it gets, baby. Highest limits, and if you're just watching on the screen, the sharpest number. And I tell you, if you're against the Circa number, then that's not a way to make a living. So sharpest number on the screen, especially for college football.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about a number I got in a bowl game, Knish, that was not sharp, that would never, ever be at Circa Sports. I can promise you that. I don't know who put it out there, but I'm guessing they may be calling one of us for a job soon. But hey, how's it going? Listen, you know what? I'm whooped. I'm running all over the place. The darn holidays. I got two kids. What do you do for the holidays, Knish? You got a bunch of stuff going on, or do you just kind of just sit there and do nothing?
Well, Tom, I don't envy the position of having children during the holidays and having to partake in those the family activities, the presents running around. So no, to be honest with you, it's a little bit quieter time for me. Take a little time off the 9 to 5, a little college football and the NFL, a little bit of a swing. So trying a little bit of relaxing this holiday season.
Yeah,
I don't decorate or put up lights either. You can put the Grinch Scrooge on me. I'm not, I don't want a bunch of crap around the house, the knickknacks, the lights, none of that. I'll go, watch somebody put up something or, they're somewhere around the neighborhood. But am I doing it myself? No, sir.
Yeah, I got 3 Minion inflatables in my front lawn. You know what ruined life for people like me, Knish, was Facebook. This person's doing this. This person's doing that. You're my age. Listen, 20 years ago, I never remember people going to Costa Rica for their birthday. Like, at most, people got a limo and went bar hopping. You got to put it on Facebook. Look what these people are doing. Look what happened. I don't care. I just want to sit here and be left alone.
You got to step your game up now, time to keep the missus happy.
I'm getting too old for that, Knish. You know what I want to do? I want to sit home and watch a good option football game. And luckily we have one of those.
This is your weekend. I'm surprised
weekend.
You're not in Annapolis or wherever they're having this thing at there. Saluting.
Yeah, well, let's talk, before we get into some early bowl bets I made, Knish, let's talk about this Army-Navy game. See if you're going anywheres on this. Listen. The odds makers have obviously adjusted to the 10,000 straight unders in these academy games. The total's 32.5. I don't know. It'll probably go under, but I'm not going to bet under 32.5. You know what I did, Knish? I took Army. The number got to 3. I don't know. I think the teams are very similar. If Navy was getting 3, I probably would have taken Navy. Just give me a bet, a little something to watch on Saturday. Did you play this game? And if so, how do you see it?
Yeah, I think, as you said, like, a lot of people love to start the trend line. Oh, it's 56-2 in the last, 60. I mean, a lot of those totals, though, if you go back more than a few years, we're in the 40s, some of them even in the low 50s. So, yeah, as you said, now the number's been adjusted down probably, where it should have been all these years. However, I'm not, again, I know some sharp people that, have put their head into a brick wall betting overs on this in the last few, betting on these military overs in the last few, and, like, even on the adjusted numbers down to the low third, they're still going under. I'm with you. I haven't partaken since the numbers gotten down there into the mid to low 30s. For me, I'm out. I'm not going to, the only thing I'll say is it'd be nice if people, one of these overs hit so everybody can stop, throwing that trend out there. But, and also on the side, I agree with you too. I thought, a lot of these look-aheads had Navy as a dog for most of the year. Now it seems to have crossed over where I think it's a little rich on that. If you can get Army, even our friends at Circa there actually have, even though I just said they don't face but The Circa looks like Circa has a juiced Army +3, and a couple other places now trading a little 3 out there. So yeah, I'm with you. I think that's probably the buy point there, and kind of as far as it's going to go.
Yeah, so how do you approach something like this, Knish? Like, some people will say, well, I'm just going to keep betting it until it loses, right? And I'm going to keep betting unders until it's like, playing black or red all the time until it stops hitting. Do you buy that strategy, or do you like at some point, you're probably thinking, like you said, the number's just too low. I mean, you got to get like 17-14, which could very well be the case to hit this under, but a fumble return, an interception return for a touchdown completely changes it. So I would love to keep betting the trend, but the number is just not there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, to me, it's one of those, like, if you find a profitable angle and you can keep hammering it, then yeah. But I think as we just talked about, like, the value in these totals kind of got corrected a few years ago. And even though they've still been going under in most instances, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's still going to be a print fest going forward. So I tend to agree. I would just, for the most part, think the number's fine and just leave these alone. Plus, usually by this I for the most part, I know this is your cup of tea, but I'm not the guy that loves to come in and spend 3 hours watching Army Navy. I'll leave this to you.
Yeah, like I've said in the past, the option's beautiful when they're not running it against each other.
Yeah.
I bet Army earlier this year getting 7 against Air Force, and they covered, and Air Force had like almost 300 yards rushing in that game. How did they only score like 13 points? You get 300 yards rushing, you got to really try to. It's interesting. We'll see if that trend continues. But let's get to the bowl games, Knish. There's a couple I bet early. Let's go to the first one where I said, I don't know who hung this number. I won't mention the book, but someone must have thought Jake Haener wasn't playing for Fresno State, even though he said definitively he's playing. I got Fresno State at +4.5. I must have spent 2 hours researching that game, thinking that half the team was out. So I took them and I took the money line. I mean, this is a Fresno State team. I had them last week. They won in Boise. They've won 8 in a row since Haener came back. They've only lost 1 game all season that he started and finished. That was to a good Oregon State team in the final seconds. Obviously, this number is not 4.5 anymore. What do you think about this game, and what do you think about it at the current number with Fresno a slight favorite?
Yeah, I know a friend of the show, Tailgate Tent, actually released this earlier today when it was, 1.5, and then now it's steamed all the way to 3 here. I think with Wazoo, you've seen I believe 2 of their starting linebackers have transferred, 2 of their top 3 wide receivers have transferred. And as you said, a lot of the data on the season data out there without Jake Haener, I mean, Haener, you could argue, is worth 8-9 points to this Fresno team, and Fresno itself. We went through a lull in the middle. We're not just Haener, but some of their other key players without. Normally, if this was if these 2 teams were going full go in a regular season game, obviously I don't think Fresno should be a 3-point favorite, but you're getting a Wazoo team that's probably going to have half their 2 deep either in the portal out here, so I would leave it, but I think now pretty much all the value out of the Fresno numbers gone there. I know some of the early look aheads that you that know the book there that dropped some of those that I'm gonna presume was expecting Jake Haener not to play, and then he comes in and he's playing. So yeah, I agree with if Haener said he was out, this would probably shift all the way back to Fresno +3 there. So I think numbers about right where it's at now. I kind of lean towards the over a little bit there. I think by all accounts, I think Cam Ward is still in this one, and a lot of that, to me, this was a Wazoo defense that actually they had a lot of nice metrics through an early part of the season that I just never felt was kind of inflated against some bad opponents. I never felt was that good. Plus now they're missing a few players, so this should be one of the rare bowl games that I usually try not to even play a ton of overs in bowls unless I'm really think we're getting a value. This is one even at 54. I still like the over here.
Okay, and in general, how are you? Listen, bowl games are a lot tougher to bet today than they were a few years ago with the portal, with the coaches leaving like crazy. How do you approach this stuff? Are you waiting on? Are you hitting anything early, or are you waiting on information? What is your approach to bowl season now?
Yeah, so I think nowadays, for the most part, I try and hit like real early on the openers, the numbers that I think are a real mistake. Also, do a little bit of like projection in terms of who I think is going to enter the portal, mostly from a QB perspective.
Yeah.
Like which QB do I think is going to declare for the draft, which QB is going to that. And then the next part of it is if you really want to grind the information trading, it's one where you're going to see 3, 4, 6, 7, sometimes up to 10-point moves on some of the information that comes out there. But it's not one of those where it's going to last out there for more than 5-10 minutes in some of these cases. So you either really got to be on top of the information. So I try and do some information grinding, bet early numbers that I like, and then as I kind of take, if you can get in some early, very good positions here. There's a number of bowl lines I got that are now, as you say, you just talked about the Fresno number, 6-7 points off. Decide, what to do with it on the back end there, or kind of go into. You should get a more concrete level of like who's actually going to play. Now we've got that early portal swoon of guys that jumped in. So now as the game gets, when it's a few days out, you should have in the bowl practice that are going more of a solid thing on who's actually going to play for these teams. So. But I know also a couple guys that say not going to bet it at all until day before, day of, going to wait till the very last minute, and then I still think I can have more of an edge, playing the bold numbers there. So kind of depends on how you want to approach it. I kind of like getting in early and doing some of the info trading, but it's a lot crazier now than it used to be for sure, because the total landscape of college football is different even than it was 3-4 years ago.
All right, so Stephen Robinson asked in the chat about the Army-Navy game. Any value in betting props like first score over under 8 minutes, or any team to score 3 straight times? No team is scoring 3 straight times. Feel pretty confident about that one. So
those
I don't know what the heck.
Like whereas the market has corrected on the total, those are probably some of the derivatives that if you shop around, you can still find some value on in this game that might be. Correlated to a side or a total, but not going to be, perfectly priced there in terms of what it actually should be in this game. So, yeah, I think those are ones, if you kind of shop the price around, you can still find a little bit of an edge here, as most books aren't spending, they're not having the Don Best or the market to be able to tell them exactly what that is. So, yeah, I think that's one that, is definitely worth more of your time to shop those around.
Yeah, and listen, Army's offense has looked better of late. They've scored 78 points the last 2 games against UMass and UConn. If you're just trying to look, two juggernauts. Well, yeah. So if you're just trying to look for a little something to think that maybe this will buck the trend, I guess you could look at that. Now, my second bowl pick, Knish. Now I already know where you are on this one because you tweeted something out about it 3 minutes after I bet it. I am on the Ohio State,
the world
your
famous
most hated team in the world. At +7, I thought 7 was the number to get. In my opinion, I think Georgia catches a little bit of a bad break here, because Ohio State's one of the only teams I think that recruits to around their kind of level. They were dead in the water. They came back. I think Michigan's a better team than Ohio State, but I don't know if Michigan, the way they play, can beat Georgia. If someone's going to beat them, it'll probably be Ohio State with their offense. So I think this is going to be a pretty competitive game. I took the +7.
Yep, no, totally in line with you here. Got a lot of 7 myself, even still a smattering of a couple of 7s out there. Juice 7, I still, 7 minus 118, that's still a buy for me. As you look at that LSU game, and I was on Georgia there. However, like you said, you got to be, objective when you're looking at some of these results. LSU threw it around the pitch on them, and that's with the hobbled Jaden Daniels, and Gary Nussmeier, who's kind of a gunslinger, can be a little inaccurate, a little wild at times, but now you're going to Ohio State team, better quarterback, better wide receivers, better pass protecting offensive line. that I think it matches up pretty well against a Georgia team that I have had some questions about their secondary, about their pass defense, and they haven't had to go up against a lot of elite passing offenses this year. Now, they did shut down, Tennessee and Athens. That was a game they got up for. They played really well. This is an Ohio State team that's even another level above that in terms of their passing offense. I like the angle to, this is Ohio State that you've had a lot of questions, I think, in the past 2 years in terms of like their focus, their toughness, just their overall culture. It feels very sterile, kind of like a minor league, NFL team where there's just been some questions about like them getting up and Michigan punches them in the face and then they kind of fade there. I like the spot of them coming off a bad rivalry loss, bad taste in your mouth. I think you'll get the focused best effort you can from an Ohio State team that has all the talent to win a natty. Just had a lot of performances this year where they felt either flat or disinterested or didn't handle adversity very well. So, I think touchdown. And go back to last week of the regular season, before the Michigan game. What's this line if these two teams played on a neutral? And I've said this
right.
3.5.
That's exactly right. That's what odds makers were telling me is 3.
Yeah, so even the biggest Ohio State pessimist, Georgia optimist would have been 4.5, 5. You're getting a full touchdown here at some places. You got to be a buy for me. You can't let the Michigan result, weigh too heavily on there. So I agree with you. Touchdown is definitely in play. I would be surprised if it closed up around there.
Yeah, and one of the things to remember, and I knew the committee was going to use this angle too. That's why I knew Alabama had no chance. But the game wasn't a blowout start to the game midway through the third quarter was still in doubt. What Michigan does to you is their running game just leans on you, and sooner or later everything breaks. Like that's what I think happened to Ohio State. But I bet Michigan that game, and it wasn't like at halftime I was sitting there counting my money.
Agreed.
You were still so that then things went bad.
Yeah,
but I think
explosives at the end made that look a lot worse than the game actually was in terms of how close it was.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so my third pick, see where you are on this one. I took Troy. I took him on the money line. I love this Troy defense. They got some NFL guys on there, like the Road Runners, UT San Antonio. I don't think they're quite as good this year as they were last year. Although I bet North Texas against them, and that didn't work out very well. But I just really like this Troy defense. I probably got it stuck in my head because I saw them play Army, and they shut down the option as well as anyone I've ever seen. But I just like the speed and the athleticism of it. So I kind of think they are about a field goal. I made them about 3 points in this game. So I went to Troy minus 115 money line.
Yeah, this is an interesting matchup because, as you said, Troy was really, their defense, I think you can argue, is probably the best G5 defense of any G5 in the country there. And it's a game that I thought you'd have, to be honest with you, I thought either Frank Harris, to me, when you were buying this, if you're buying it early, I thought it was 75% Frank Harris would either go to the NFL or hit the portal and get to a P5. All of a sudden, I thought UTSA's coach would be a big, time guy getting a job. They both come back, so the school ponies up and gets Frank Harris a nice NIL deal. Was able to retain their coach. They're changing conferences next year, so this is a fascinating game. I actually, I think pick -1 is about right here. I tend to lean on the under a bit. I know UTSA team that plays fast, but if there's one concern I've had with Troy, I was never a big Gunnar Watson guy. I even thought Jared Doty was kind of the better QB on the roster.
Yeah.
They went with Watson. Don't get me wrong, he comes through. They win a conference title with them. But it'll be interesting here. I think that this is one of the bowl games where I think you're getting both teams kind of like full go. Should be one of both teams very interested in it. So this is one of the ones that I'm super excited to actually watch, that I think both teams will be heavily invested in. But I don't have I'm not saying I'm, fading your side here, but at around, pick +1 either way, I think it's a pass for me. I do lean under on this one a little bit there, but I think it's great to watch, and I think the number's about right.
Okay. Trip Tepper asks Knish about the Oregon UNC game. He wants to know if it's overcorrected, UNC +14, or the UNC personnel departure is just too much to overcome. Air Wisconsin coming to the Big Ten, Knish.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see that. But what do you think of this Oregon UNC game? Plus 14, that's a big one.
Yeah, I don't know what Mr. Longo's gonna, how he's gonna react when he walks in and sees, a bunch of white guys in the skill position room there. But so yeah, I agree with you. This is another one that I thought there was some birds chirping that Drake May was shopping around and going to be on his way out. He comes back, so I think 14, but there's a lot of things going against UNC here in terms of, as you said, personnel departures there, the offensive coordinator's out. The last few weeks also, you saw some teams make adjustments to the UNC offense and what Drake May was doing, and they basically get shut down 3 weeks in a row. 2 of those weeks against defenses, Georgia Tech, NC State, that I don't know, and then they get smashed by Clemson. Also, the vibe around the UNC there's been some rumors that the defensive staff is is not happy, and there's been obviously they shouldn't be happy because Gene Chizik, the coach, y'all know what the hell he's doing.
Yeah, right.
And some of even their defense, again, they don't have a great defense, and some of their defensive players have already left. Plus Oregon, Nix is going to play, and I think they have a huge strength advantage here. It's one that, to be honest with you, even at 14, do I think that's a bit inflated? Yes. Do I really want to jump in here and play UNC? I don't think so. To be honest with you, I did play some under when it was in the low 70 to 73-ish. What's the current out there? I think it's 71, 72 right now. So, I would still kind of lean that. There is the one book, mostly 71, Circa 70, 172 out there. I think 71 or better. I'd still play some under. I'm worried. There's a lot of things that are quite concerning about the UNC program right now, even though May's coming back.
Yeah, no, I agree. I had a big play on Clemson last week. Game went just like I thought it would. They just mash them. Like I said last week, that wasn't a play on Clemson. It was a complete fade of North Carolina in that spot. I think they've really hit a wall here. It'd be tough for me to back them in a bowl game. Now, if I was a tout, Knish, my 100 unit Casale blowout of bowl season would be this one. I took Southern Miss minus the 6.5. I think they blow Rice out of the water. Southern Miss is one of my favorite football teams to watch. Again, similar to Troy, very underrated defense. I think Rice backing into a bowl game here, 5-7 or whatever they are. I like Southern Miss to roll them. What do you think about this one?
I like this one, Mr. Casale. It was one that I've been on the verge of. You've been in the, kind of on the to see where the numbers going, but no, I am with you here. And I like under a touchdown here. Southern Miss, they were a team that I don't think the market had totally caught up with at the end of the season when they made the QB change, and Trey Lowe came in, and I think their offense was a lot better. He's explosive quarterback, able to even pass a little bit more, and now you're getting him. He should have a few more weeks to get more of the offense installed. So I like young quarterback here getting some more prep time. I agree with that. I think they're a significantly better team than Rice. Rice kind of started off the season hot, faded down the stretch there. I think there's a pretty wide talent gap here. I haven't looked to see if Frank Gore Jr. had committed to playing in this game yet. But that would be one I'd want to, because I think obviously he's the best skill player there for Southern Miss. But regardless, that's one that at current there, I like that. I'm on board with you here that I think Southern Miss was a team that was a little undervalued here, and I think it's still under a touchdown worth a bet there. So no, I'm with you on that one. That'll be a hit the books Friday consensus best bet.
Yeah. All right, we got Southern Miss now. The next one, I always save the best for last. It ain't gonna be a consensus.
You're gonna pull out the stupid green hat for this one, or what?
No, I'm not going there. You're gonna hate the heck out of this one. Not only did I get a bad number, you're gonna hate the pick, but maybe it's because I just watched too much of the one team. I got Alabama, and here's why. I bet Kansas State to win the Big 12. They cashed that for me, but I've watched all their games this year. their defense, I know people for the Tide aren't going to play. I think Alabama can line up and rush for 250 on them. I just think there's a huge talent discrepancy. And the thing about Alabama is everyone points to that Utah game that was 15 years ago. Alabama showed up against Michigan a couple. I think Saban guards against that now because of that egg they laid in that. But everyone points to that Alabama's not going to show up. I just think they can show up and run the ball and win this game easy. So I know the number's down. Everyone's going with Kansas State. You look at that Texas game. Texas ran over Kansas State like they weren't even there. I think you see a similar result here.
Yeah, this is one that pretty. I mean, if this is a regular season game and you saw Alabama -3 on a neutral versus Kansas State, it'd be like bet you the kids the little Tommy's
Right.
college fund on this one. But there's a ton of. I think most people are making the assumption, especially based on the market move, that Bryce Young, Will Anderson, some other guys won't play. So I think you'll see. People say who's more motivated, Kansas State get in this one. I tend to agree with you that now it's gotten to the point where it's like Alabama or nothing. However, if no Bryce Young here, this is the one I really like the under. As you said, it'd be both teams. As I still think Alabama's defense will be, no matter, even if Will Anderson doesn't play, they're not short on talent on the defense,
Right.
and I think they'll be able to control Kansas State's ground game, what they want to do. So this is one I like the under at 54. I like this under quite a bit. I think Alabama should be able to control it here, and if Alabama has to go to Jalen Milroe, he's basically an RPO.
He's a runner.
Yeah. I mean, they were when he had to come in here. He's probably throwing the ball 10, 12 times or something
Right.
like that. They're running RPO all game, so I think the under there. If you get word Bryce Young is out, even though the side's kind of baked in, under's a banger. So to me, I would be, if you're out there. I played a little bit just in anticipation that he's going to be out. I think you'll see some Alabama portal transfers too. They're going to be down at the wide receiver position. So I like under regardless here. If word drops that Young is out, under is a hammer.
Yeah, I always worry about trying to guess motivation. I mentioned, a couple years ago, I was told Alabama wasn't going to show up against Michigan. Game was over in 10 seconds. I was told the year TCU got screwed in the playoffs, they weren't going to show up, won the game by 50. So I think it's hard to try to, unless you just see a bunch of people, like we mentioned, North Carolina, you got a bunch of people leaving. You might see some players leaving. So things like that. But teams like Alabama and Ohio, again, another one. I was told Ohio State wasn't going to show up to the Rose Bowl last year. Well, they showed up. So,
right, second half definitely. Yeah, they showed up to close her out, no doubt.
Yeah, so I think it's hard to bet motivation. But those are 5 of my picks, Knish. But the one I've been dying to ask you about, because I haven't played it yet, I want to get your thoughts on it. I know a lot of people like this TCU team. I think Michigan's going to pound them to the earth. I really do. I just think, again, I've seen a lot of Big 12. It's a fun conference. These teams are good. But where they struggle is where teams like Michigan are strong. Up front, just mash them. It's 7.5. I want to bet the Wolverines. What is your recommendation on this game?
I agree with you. I played some, 7 dropped. There's a few places dropped flat 7, so I bought some of that. I even was able to get like a juice 6.5 for a bit. I think most of the market has pretty much shifted to 7.5, kind of wide. But if you can get, even a 7 with, 7 minus 115, a 7 minus 120, I think that's worth a bet. I thought this would trade between 8 and 9.5 most of the time. Some early TCU move, and I disagree with it. So it's a TCU team that ran very well for most of the year. And again, defense was playing well end of the season, but it's not a great TCU team. It's a team that deserves to be here, won the right games, but in terms of any, modeling or data or any of that, it's a very, I would say, above average team, but a team that is nowhere near, a top 4, top 5 team in the country. And I think Michigan, is going to present them a lot of challenges, especially in terms of what they do offensively. TCU, when they can't establish the run game and get the run game. I just don't think. And again, don't get me wrong. Great story, Max Duggan. I think he, him. It seems like forever ago that he didn't start against that Colorado game, and Chandler Morris, against what turned out to be like the worst Colorado team of all time, looked terrible in the first half. Gets hurt, and Duggan comes in, and then the storybook is written. But when he's forced to be like the passing offense, a lot of it's turned into just like jump balls to Quentin Johnson, that. I don't think he can be the efficient type. Michigan plays 2 deep safeties, and they can still stop the run with their defensive tackles. They got elite defensive tackle play, so I think that'll be really hard for TCU, to gauge. And it was a Michigan team that was banged up at a few significant positions, and not just Blake Corum was the one that everybody talked about, but they were banged up at defensive end, they were banged up at tight end, they were banged up on O-line. Now all of those guys will be fresh, healthy, and I think TCU's a little bit over their head here. So I would agree with you. I would play. I'd prefer a 7 minus 115, 7 minus 120 to the 7.5, but also like an under 59. I played I played an under flat 60. I like under 59. I think this is more of a total. It should be 56.5, 57. Just think TCU is going to struggle to move the ball. And you saw McCarthy in a few of the big games at the end there finally looked like the guy hitting the explosive plays and hitting the deep balls that the Michigan needed him to do. And I think in some of these games where you have a ton of prep time, I lean towards the better coaching staff. And I just think Michigan's got a significantly better staff than TCU does. So I'm with you on Big Blue. Not a homer play, but just I think touchdown. If you can get it, it's too short.
Yeah, it reminds me kind of the Georgia-Michigan game last year, where everybody liked Michigan. Just thought to myself, the Michigan offense wasn't going to beat that Georgia defense. I mean, that was a pro defense, and just they didn't have they had McNamara, who was kind of limited, and it just feels kind of similar. Where this is a different Michigan team now. They've been to the playoff. They had we beat Ohio State, yippee, stuff, and now they're coming for business, and I just think it's going to get ugly in this game. But Tripp says he'd argue that Kansas State's offensive style is close to Michigan. K-State should have beaten TCU twice this season. That's correct. I mean, that's TCU or K-State, one of the more physical teams in the Big 12. They'll run it right at you, and boy, man, TCU had a lot of trouble in that championship game. Stopping the deuce, stopping the TCU's offense. So I think it's going to, even if TCU stays close early, I think it's going to be similar to Ohio State. That line, those tight ends, just hammering on you all game. Sooner or later, boom, it breaks. It's all Michigan.
No, yeah, I agree with the comp. That first time they played was quite expensive for Joey K there in the second half when the walk on or whoever is playing quarterback and he can't cover the number there. So yeah, that was one of the ones I don't look back with fond memories of. But yeah, no, I mean it's hard. You don't get a lot of those teams in the Big 12 that you kind of line up and want to run and pound it at you. But Kleiman's kind of brought over that North Dakota State culture there in TCU trouble. They don't have a lot of size on the defensive line, so yeah, I think that'll be tough to deal with. I think Michigan's got the best offensive line in the country, and that kind of leads itself to Michigan in the underplay there.
All right, well, you've been watching Hit the Books on the Hammer Betting Network, powered by Circa Sports. Bet like the pros with the world's largest sports book right at your fingertips. Experience big app bets, the highest betting limits, better money line splits with the lowest hold percentage in the business, great customer service. Get your new bookie today at circasports.com. Knish, it's always good talking to you, breaking down the games. We'll be back next Friday talking about some more bowl games. We'll see who's opted out, coaches changes. I mean, I know Syracuse had a bunch of movement recently in the coaching staff, so those things matter. We'll break it all down. Hey, thanks for stopping by, talking about some bowls with me. I'm going to go bet Michigan. Go Blue. We got it. The Big Ten, baby. Ohio State, Michigan. It's our time. It's the SEC's had their run. But for Tom Casale, Joey Knish, we will see you next Friday on Hit the Books.
Sounds good, brother.